this might be my most adventurous DIY yet. It all started a couple of months ago when I asked you, what colour would you paint this house? Because I've been wanting to improve my curb appeal and I thought, I'll bet I can paint my house myself. And what everyone told me is that I should paint it the colour of my t-shirt. But did I take this to the shop as a reference? No, I didn't. And that's how I ended up with this. And trust me, I really tried to like this colour. I painted it on the wall, but it was disgusting. So we tried again and I picked up some samples for you to pick from. Something that matched all of the beautifully coloured houses in my city. And guess what? From those 40 colour samples, we still ended up choosing something that was the colour of my t-shirt. But that's not the only part of my curb appeal that I need to change. These slate chippings go everywhere and I wish I had a border to stop them going on the path. My gas box was previously painted and now it's flaking. I need to rebuild this flower bed about a foot to the left because this bin shed does not fit. I also built it from the wrong wood, so I need to repair some of it. The moisture barrier at the bottom of the house needs to be redone. I have to get a gate. You get the picture. There's lots to be done. I didn't want to get my clothes covered in paint, so I brought back a guest from a former project. And now that the higher ladder has arrived, I guess there's no turning back. Let me tell you, this thing, very heavy. So here's what else you might need to paint a house. Some sturdy footwear. A tool belt to hang things so you can keep both your hands free for climbing the ladder. A damp cloth for when you get it on your neighbour's house by mistake, don't tell anyone. And a hook so that you can hang up your paint pot on your ladder. Step 1 is cleaning the wall of any dirt or debris. Step 2, get a spotter. The safest way to do something like this is installing some scaffolding. But if you do use a ladder, it's best to have someone at the bottom of the ladder called a spotter who will stop it from slipping. Because I only had my two mates, Breeze Block 1 and Breeze Block 2. You also have to choose the right paint for your house. I recommend a paint that's breathable so that it doesn't trap the moisture inside the walls. As this wall had been painted before, it actually went on really easily. And the trickiest part was removing my house alarm. Just not enough hands. Everything was going so well, except for this part. I couldn't access this very well because it was right above the porch. So I had to call my sister to come and give me a hand. Oh, you've just got a little... And in the next episode, I'll show you what happened when I painted coat 2. So follow along for that. Until then, I'll leave you with this view. Night night. Now it's time to crack the paint back out for coat 2. In the broad light of day, I realised the coverage was so good that I just went back and filled in the spots that I'd missed. I needed to reseal the windows as I was noticing some damp inside. I started by scraping out the old peeling silicone, scrubbing them down with a magic sponge and chipping off the bits that wouldn't budge. I then finished off the edges by creating some very juicy straight lines. Can we just take a moment to appreciate... Okay, thank you. Once that was dry, I used a window and framing sealant around all of the edges, both top and bottom windows. It took me an embarrassingly long time to realise that I could take this ladder apart, didn't need to use all 3 pieces, and it's so heavy, at one point I almost dropped it. I needed to reinstall my house alarm, which is so tricky because you need to hold it and the drill. Then I forgot to turn off the tamper alarm, but it mostly went smoothly. Oh, for And just to give you an idea of how scary it is to be installing this house alarm, this is how high this ladder is. Although, pretty epic views, wouldn't you say? The only thing better than watching Spider-Man climb up 2 stories is watching Spider-Man climb up 3. Oh yeah, there's more. Before I paint the back of my house, I need to fix this part of the wall. A couple of years ago, I removed a set of concrete steps from here that weighed over 4 tons, and I still haven't got round to rendering the wall. I started by hammering off some of the protruding areas of render, and removing a couple of rogue nails. I want to add Pebble Dash so it blends in with the rest of the wall. Pebble Dash isn't really in vogue, and I couldn't find any anywhere, so we're using aquarium gravel. I'm also using a hawk, a trowel to smooth it on, and something to flick on the stones. This is the best bit, wait for it. Plop! After I started to render, I remembered I hadn't wet the wall. This will stop it from soaking up all of the moisture in the render. Had to work quickly so it didn't dry out. And then I got to do the fun bit of flicking. Whoopah! I filled in some bits that I couldn't reach by hand, and I'll leave this to dry fully before I start to paint. Click the plus if you don't want to miss the next episode.
What would happen if... Ooh, that's nice. Let me take you on a little journey. Right back when I was first mixing this paint, I thought it would take a hot second to paint the back of my house. It took me ages. Unlike the front that had been previously painted, this had never been done and it sucked up all of the paint. 40 litres of it, in fact. And if I ever did it again, I'd start with some cheaper paint first. But I did take away some lessons from when I did the front of the house, because if you remember, this kept happening. So I screwed on my very own little paintbrush holder. This very sophisticated tool is what I used to paint around the pipes. And as you can see, I was very, very careful cutting around the... Oh. Maybe not. I wasn't always careful, but I did try and unscrew things from the wall wherever I could. Now the first coat's done, I thought I'd ask you...
Do you want to see it?
Oh, looks better already. And in case you wondered, this is how high it looks from the top. And more importantly, this is how it feels from the top. You don't go from this to this without making a fair bit of mess. And before I could paint the second coat, there was a major cleanup operation. Masonry rollers are specially designed for external walls, but their long pile means they catch all of the rogue pebble dash that comes off the wall. And it's not the only mess I made. I needed to wash the pipes too. Since I'm up here, I decided to check my guttering for missing tiles and dead birds. Looking splendid. Here's the brushes that I used. A masonry roller, a small roller for getting behind the pipes, a masonry brush, and a little brush for details. Once coat 2 was done, it was just a case of chipping off any paint spatter and screwing things back onto the wall. Where did that go? Oh look, it's hopped off the wall. It's funny because it's called a hopper. Oh, it's not funny when you gotta explain it. I even added some extra finishing touches. Many people have rightly asked me why I didn't just climb up the wall. And this is a bit awkward, but the truth is... I'm not actually Spider-Man.
9 million people have watched me paint the front and then the back of my house. But this front garden is still a disaster and we got to do something about it. A little while ago, I asked you what I could do to improve my curb appeal. So today I've snuck out to pick up some materials. I'm going to rebuild this flower bed so the bin shed fits. And as you know, the bin shed was falling apart, so I picked up some treated wood that can be used outside. Went and picked up everything I needed in one go. Just got stuck in. Like every project, I'll start by tidying the space. And I'm going to sort this wall first. The soil went into rubble sacks as I'll need to reuse some of this later. I'll also be reusing the stones, so I separated these from the old mortar. I didn't realise I'd caught this cute time lapse of this snail. But then, no, Mr. Snail! Luckily the plants I needed to move were already in tubs. But then something weird happened. I just found an egg in my garden. A whole egg. Anyway, I managed to remove all of the wall and the soil, and now it's ready for me to rebuild the wall. Click the plus so you don't miss the next episode. Welcome back to this garden transformation. After I bashed this wall down, it was time to rebuild it 30 centimetres further back. First I cleared some space, because what a mess. I picked up this ready to mix mortar. It's super easy to use. It's more expensive than mixing your own sand and cement, but it's a great option for the DIYer, because you literally just add water. I've got this mixing paddle attachment that I put in the end of my drill. It needs a reasonably powerful drill to use. Looks like chocolate cake mix. Don't eat it. I wanted to rebuild the wall with the stones that I already had. I would have picked slightly bigger stones for a project like this, but this was all I had, so I just made do. I tested out different stones in different places to see what would end up level. After I finished the last row, I'll let it dry fully and then add the soil back in. That's where the old wall used to be. Seems like such a minor adjustment, but this makes all the difference in being able to fit the bin shed in. I really wanted to brighten up this empty space under the windowsill, so I stuck in these planters. The first screw that I used snapped and it was such a pain to try and get it out. Oh, so frustrating. Here they're finished and I'm re-waterproofing the base of my house. But that's for next episode. Click the plus if you don't want to miss it. Oh, that'll never do. Today I replaced this rotting wood on my bin shed. Wood that's going to be used outside should be treated so that it lasts longer. I started by carefully removing the current felt as I want to reuse this. So a little secret, I'm replacing this with some unneeded boards that aren't treated but varnished. They won't last as long as treated wood, but it's what I had to hand, trying to save a few pennies. I decided to make the top of the bin shed into a flower bed using my impact driver. I mean, this was annoying. For the base, I just used 2 rubble sacks that had been cut open at the bottom and then stapled them to the sides. I cut out some pieces to put in the corners to support the structure and also replaced the inside shelf. I hadn't built it well the first time because I didn't know how to. All part of the fun of learning. I painted the sides to protect the existing wood a little better. You'll remember from last episode, the weather barrier at the bottom of my house was peeling, so I decided to chip off all the bits that were loose and retank it. This stuff is a super strange consistency, and you need to apply a coat both upwards and downwards. Oh, made a mess. If you want to see what happens next, don't forget to click the plus. You have 12 seconds to guess what this is. I cut down these pieces of mesh with my angle grinder and attached it to this wooden frame that I have finished with boiled linseed oil and screwed it together with a bunch of pocket holes. It's a climber for my sweet peas. Did you guess? Today's job on this garden follow-along project was to find a way to separate the path from the main part of the garden. And that's because the chippings go everywhere. I like the simple design of these stone borders and found them in a colour that I liked. I'll be burying them into the ground so that they end up level. This is so I can create a platform for the bin shed. I kept the line straight by using string. Once I'd cut the stone to size, I thought that it might have actually looked better if I had just cut it at a 90-degree angle at the corner, but I've already cut it now, so I'll know for next time. Now that I know where the border's going to go, I'm just going to concrete it in place. I decided to mix my own with some sand and cement, Concrete would normally have aggregate in it as well, but I didn't have any of that, so I just stuck with what I had.
Later I used some external levelling fluid, which will even out this area.
I'll leave this area to dry fully.
And next episode I'll be doing the base for the woodshed, so don't forget to follow along.
Look at all this gloop.
This is mortar that I'm using to level out the bin shed in my garden.
So that it's not falling over like this. When you add gravel to a mix like this, that makes it concrete. This is when I realised I hadn't mixed it very well, so I had to mix it whilst it was on the ground. Every little counts. All I was trying to do here is make the ground a bit more level for these flagstones. These stones used to make up the floor in the basement and are original to the house when it was built in 1880. Earlier this year, I was dismantling the fireplace in my basement, and along with a haunted shoe and quite a lot of dust, I also found this really big, beautiful flagstone right in the centre, which is now going to take centre stage in its new home in my garden. They are all different heights, so I tried to make it just as level as I could. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm working to a really tight budget on this project. And this is how it looked when it was done. When it was dry, I filled in the gaps between the stones, let that dry, and then I washed the entire thing to get up all the dust. I applied this patio sealant to protect the stone, or as I like to call it, floor milk. I did 2 coats, and when it was completely dry, I added the bin shed. Cute. Any guesses what I'll be doing here on the next episode? Follow along to check it out. We're back on this garden follow-along project. After completing this base for the bin shed, I told you I'd be doing something at the top part of the garden. Did you guess what it was? So this is levelling fluid, and it's super cool. You spread it over the surface. You don't normally use a rake like I'm doing, but it's all I had. And it just levels itself. Just does the work for you. And here at DIY with Emma, we just love a product that does the work for you. Next, I'm going to fess up to what can only be described as a bodge job. This electric meter box is falling apart, but I don't want to replace it right now. So I just gave it a quick lick of paint. This is gloss. It's not designed for outside, but I just wanted a super temporary fix. I'll buy a new box at a later date. Once the levelling fluid had dried, it was time to spread out these chippings. I actually removed all of these chippings and washed them. They were filled with mud and gunk and all sorts of stuff. It took me forever to wash them, but it's so worth it. They look so shiny now. So this is where we've got to on this curb appeal project. But there's still 2 things left for me to do, and one of them is very obvious. Can you guess what it is? We finally did it. In the last few months, we turned this into this. But there's a couple of things left to do. In the last episode, I just levelled the top part of the garden, and I had a lot of questions about drainage. Where's the water going to go if it's level? I'd wanted the top part of this garden to have a smooth and even finish. But the ground itself is actually on a slope. So the water just travels down into these holes that I've created that go through the border and then down into the front of the garden. And this was the finishing touch for the garden. I wanted a gate, and they're actually fairly easy to install. You'll need to use the hammer setting on the drill to get the plugs into the brick. But whatever you do, don't use the furniture to bash in the plugs. No, Emma. No. Here's the garden just a few months ago.
And here's the reveal. Wait, where's the... Poof. Okay, there we go. Oh, wow, that's much better. What a transformation.
From dumping ground to garden oasis, my curb appeal has vastly improved. All I need to do next is this path at the front where I'll be installing some original Minton floor tiles. So if you enjoyed this series, don't forget to follow along so you don't miss the next one, and share with a friend that you think would love it too. Bye!